top focus. US President Donald Trump has now called for an immediate halt to the war in Ukraine, urging both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop right now at the battle line. Now, after a 2-hour meeting with Zelensky at the White House, Trump has stressed the need to end the conflict, stating that it had become too complicated to resolve without action. Take a look.
So the shutdown continues. The Republican Party is not going to pay $1.5 trillion to illegal immigrants coming into our country, coming in for a lot of reasons, coming in from prisons, from jails, from all over the place, from Venezuela, many countries. We're not going to do that. So the shutdown continues. It's a Democrat shutdown. It's a Schumer shutdown because his career has failed and it's over. I met with President Zelenskiy, as you know, today. And we had a very good meeting, very cordial meeting. In my opinion, they should stop the war immediately. You go by the battle line, wherever it is. Otherwise, it's too complicated. You'll never be able to figure it out. You stop at the battle line, and both sides should go home, go to their families, stop the killing, and that should be it. Stop right now at the battle line. I told that to President Zelensky. I told it to President Putin. Thank you very much, everybody.
Trump, meanwhile, has also spoken about his recent phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, stating that Russia wants to end the war in Ukraine. He has highlighted the enormous loss of life as well. However, while Trump did not rule out providing long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, he seemed cautious about the idea, suggesting that it could in fact escalate this conflict. Trump has expressed his role as a mediator between both sides, despite the ongoing hostility, the sort of escalation that we have been seeing on the ground in the aftermath of the Alaska summit that had taken place earlier as well.
Talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin, and I think that things are coming along pretty well. It began with Alaska, where I think certain guidelines were discussed, and we want to see if we can get this done. This was long ago into the Biden administration. I came here and we inherited this, and we'd like to see if we could finish it, end it. We want it ended. So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended. So, look, my only statement is we have to get together. It's a very small group of people. It's the president, and the president, okay? 3 presidents, and I'm the mediator president, and I'm mediating not an easy situation. It should be easy, but it's a lot easier when people understand each other, when they get together, and when they like each other. We don't necessarily have that situation as far as like is concerned.
Zelensky, for his part, expressed his confidence in Trump's commitment to ending the war. The Ukrainian president also noted that he's open to bilateral or even trilateral formats for peace talks, expressing willingness to explore any avenue that might lead to peace. Now, during their meeting itself, Zelensky reportedly showed Trump's maps outlining potential targets in Russia that could apply pressure on the Russian military and economy, potentially compelling Putin to end this war. Zelensky also spoke to European leaders following its talks with Trump, further underlying his focus on securing support for peace efforts. Now, after the meeting itself, Zelensky has in fact come out and stated that Trump should be involved in the peace deal and should do something in light of what was done in the Middle East. Listen in.
We trust the United States. We trust President that he wants to finish this war, and it's difficult. It's very tough solution. It's understandable why. Just after meeting with President and his team, we had now conversation with our strategic partners. I had phone calls, common phone call with our group. The main leaders of coalition.
Meanwhile, joining us on the broadcast is Professor Jim Rice. He's a professor of international law, joining us from the Philippines. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. High-octane developments as far as the war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine is concerned. Zelensky at the White House, meetings between Putin and Trump being planned as well. We have seen an escalation in the war in the aftermath of the Alaska summit, especially with energy infrastructure being increasingly targeted. I wanted to understand from you, could then direct talks between Trump and Putin help diffuse these tensions, or would it lead to a repetition of what's been transpiring?
Thanks for having me on, Pia. Yeah, I would agree with the latter part of your question, which is it's obvious that Putin is stringing along Trump, and that Trump is being played by Putin once again, whether Putin is a willing collaborator in this or whether he's really that stupid. When you listen to Trump speak these days, it's quite obvious that he's in serious cognitive decline. And I really wonder whether he's, all there at this point. But to try and answer the other part of your question, this is an illegal war that Putin launched against Ukraine in February 2022. It's illegal. It violates the United Nations Charter. And in addition to that, nearly all of the tactics that Putin's forces have been using have been in violation of the laws of war, namely by attacking civilian housing, hospitals, schools, areas where innocents and civilians reside and congregate. But there is no both sides in this, like Trump constantly tries to do, which is trying to perpetuate a lie. On the other hand, Zelenskiy and Ukraine have been attacking, as you mentioned quite correctly, energy infrastructure, which is a legitimate target at a time of war. So what Trump has been trying to do is to foist this lie on the United States population and on the world, that this is just kind of like both sides and they should all just stop. The fact of the matter is that Putin won't even talk to Zelensky, that Putin's conditions for any kind of peace are that Ukraine essentially surrenders, to give up, to demilitarize, and to give all of the territory that Russia demands. That's not peace, that's capitulation and surrender. So, my answer is Trump is deluded, or he's obviously on the side of Russia and Putin. The meeting that Trump intends to have with Putin is just yet another photo op where he is going to be played by Putin once again. Once again, the United States is going to be humiliated. And to that, on this day, I would say no kings.
I also wanted to point out to the fact that Zelensky has recently stressed upon the landmark deal in the Middle East. He stated that the same approach that helped curb the conflict in the Middle East could work in Ukraine's favor as well. But we do know that the situation between Russia and Ukraine is very, very different than in the Middle East itself. Russia is a nuclear-armed nation. It has one of the most powerful militaries in the world. So can the same approach really be applied in this scenario as well?
No. In the situation with Gaza, Trump and Netanyahu basically put their finger on the scale. If it was a peace, it was basically a coercive peace. In the end, Hamas had no choice. I personally don't believe that this ceasefire is going to last, but that's another conversation. But no, the two things are not the same. Ukraine is a sovereign nation. It's going to fight on. It has the support of the entire NATO, apart from the United States, and the European Union, and the two situations are not similar.
Indeed, and I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other updates regarding what's happening in Europe. We're now learning that German Foreign Minister Johann Wedful has stressed that Ukraine must be involved in any decisions made during the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Budapest. He's called the meeting a second attempt to get Russia to negotiate seriously and has emphasized that no decision about Ukraine can be made without Ukraine itself. His comments come as Ukraine has not been invited to the talks, although Ukrainian President Zelensky has met Trump and has also expressed his inclination to being involved in a trilateral format.
Ich glaube, dass jede Vereinbarung betreffend die Kriegssituation in der Ukraine erfordert, dass die Ukraine unter anderem an vorderster Stelle durch ihren Präsidenten repräsentiert, daran zu beteiligen ist. Es darf keine Entscheidung über die Ukraine ohne die Ukraine geben. Das ist vollkommen klar. Und deswegen verstehe ich die Gespräche in Budapest als einen zweiten Versuch nach den Gesprächen in Alaska, Präsident Putin endlich davon zu überzeugen, ernsthaft mit der Ukraine zu verhandeln. Darauf wird die Ukraine bestehen und dafür hat sie die Unterstützung der Bundesrepublik Deutschland.
Additionally, he also addressed a Polish court ruling blocking the extradition of a Ukrainian suspect in the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline explosions, affirming that Germany respects court decisions and the separation of powers. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Jim Rice. Speaking of Budapest and the upcoming meeting that we're likely to see, there were murmurs of a meeting in Budapest earlier as well, right in the aftermath of the Alaska summit. Now, this is something that the Ukrainians had taken to offense to, considering their history with the city. And now, with the recent phone call, could we then see momentum building on achieving something in line of the breakthrough in the Middle East, or is that still a rather far-fetched vision?
Well, I think that it's interesting to me that the next venue for this so-called peace process that Trump is trying to get going is Hungary and Budapest. And as you know, Putin's biggest ally in Europe is Viktor Orban, the dictator of Hungary.
Yes.
And he's the most Putin-friendly place. The other thing that's interesting to me is that really Putin can't go to very many places. He can't go to any other cities in Europe because there's an arrest warrant out for him,
Yes.
Issued by the ICC, the International Criminal Court. So to try and answer your question, and I'm not sure I fully understand it, is I don't think that much progress is going to be made in Budapest, although I think it would be nice if Putin were served with an arrest warrant when he goes there.
Indeed, and we're also seeing a lot of statements coming from the Kremlin, a tough talk on the possible transfer of Tomahawks to Ukraine. Russia claims that if Trump goes ahead with this, it will destroy relations with the United States of America. Zelensky, meanwhile, has stated and claimed that the potential U.S. supplies of long-range Tomahawk missiles have forced Russian President to call Donald Trump and to set up this meeting. What do you make of this statement?
I'm glad you brought that up. This is a very important point. It's really interesting. Trump floats this idea of providing Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, and then suddenly Putin calls up Trump, and the next thing you know, Trump caves on this. Trump always chickens out once again. And so then Trump presents this decision that he supposedly has made to Zelensky at yesterday's meeting. So once again, we see that Trump and Putin are basically collaborating with each other to undermine Europe and to undermine Ukraine.
And we've also seen a statement coming from Trump itself yesterday that the United States cannot deplete its own stocks of Tomahawk missiles. What sort of message is Trump trying to give by making such public statements?
Again, this is nonsense. I have another word for it, but I prefer not to use it on your network. It's just completely nonsense. Maybe some people believe that, but no one else does. It's not a credible statement.
All right, sir. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time sharing your insights with us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, viewers, more news coming in from Europe. A special envoy to Russian President Vladimir Putin called on Elon Musk